Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Coach Rainwater. Coach, it's great to see you again. We have not talked a whole lot since baseball season. Football season, I know we were both excited about it. You are a season ticket holder. You have coached football a long time. You've been in press boxes. It's been your job to break down the X's and O's. You sit right next to the sideline. So to be honest with you, I have a ton of respect for your opinion, your coaching expertise. I can just tell you guys, I've seen Robbie Rainwater work on the football coaching staff, and he's like a savant. I mean, he doesn't even need to like write stuff down. He just remembers stuff. So you want to sit down, get some popcorn, listen to Coach Rainwater's thoughts, because he's also very well spoken, and I assure you, he absolutely knows what he's talking about. Coach, take it over.
Yeah, so I don't know. Anything I'm going to say on this podcast is going to be very raw. It's not probably well thought out, but it's just
it's how we all feel.
Yeah, and probably the one thing that is driving me the most insane, okay, is OSU had a chance to take the reins and be the top dog in this new Big 12. All the offensive struggles, all that stuff, but probably the biggest thing that drives me insane is the continual talk in post-game interviews or press conferences midweek of we're not going to dwell on the past. Well, I think you're to a point now where you're going to start needing to dwell on the past and start looking for a solution. You know what I mean? And this whole idea of, that game's behind us and we need to move forward, but you're not. You're not moving forward. You're stuck in a rut. You're stuck in the same place. And maybe you need to dwell on the past a little bit and say, what is it that we need to do to figure this thing out? As opposed to, let's go work hard and practice. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but if it's not producing results and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again and getting the same results that you've been getting, maybe we need to spend a little bit more time in the past to try and figure out what we need to do to move forward. And so, anyway, that's probably my biggest frustration right now with OSU football. And as just a fan, or alumni, I'm alumni of OSU, and a huge fan and supporter of OSU athletics and all those things. But man, it's just hard to sit and listen to the powers that be, whether it be the players on the field or whether it be, coaches in interviews talking about how we're just going to go to practice this next week and try and get better. Well, triers try and doers do. It's time to stop trying and start doing. And it's not, whatever you're doing isn't producing results. And again, going back, this is very raw for me, but it's a very frustrating feeling and a frustrating set of circumstances. How many people on a weekend basis, Coach, schedule their weekend around an OSU football game? Okay.
So
how many
50, 60,000, yeah.
How many people around this state or around the country, wherever alumni may live, schedule their Saturdays around OSU football? Right? How many people, and talking about little things, right? How many people don't have a TV package, right? Because they just want to stream things. They got Netflix and everything else, and don't have a TV package where they can get ESPN and every weekend figure out how to get a free trial from another subscriber so they can watch the OSU football game, or potentially during football season get a TV package just for football. And this is the product that they see. Mm-hmm. Right. And then to hear in post-game conferences about how I don't need to listen to fans. My job is to coach the football team. Well, you're not doing either one. It's very obvious that you're not listening to fans, and it's very obvious that not a whole lot of coaching is going on. We're not dwelling on the past. We're going to try and move forward, but you're not. And so, and I don't think that I'm that far off from maybe what a lot of other OSU fans are thinking right now, right? In that, where is Casey Dunn? Has anybody seen the guy? Right? Has he done any interviews? At what point in time does he have to answer the bell for 224? I mean, you get out. West Virginia rushes for 368 or 364, and we have a total of 224 yards. They have 140 more rushing yards than we do total yards. Who's answering for that? Right? Who is publicly out in front? One of the things I used to do as a school administrator was, if you mess up, and make a big blunder in a certain setting or a certain environment, the best way to apologize for that is to apologize in that same environment, right? So if a kid messes up at a school assembly, right, let's have another school assembly where that kid has to apologize in that same environment, right? So where is that accountability on the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator, not just Mike Gundy as the head coach, but where's the accountability on the coordinators that produce what they're producing in this huge environment with 50, 60,000 fans, but don't have to answer the bell or answer any questions or be held accountable in that same environment, right? And it's very, very frustrating because we all know what we grew up with OSU football, right? And you've talked about that a lot in your podcast in the 90s and what that produced and the success that we've seen under Coach Gundy, right? And the promises or the potential that this program can be and has moved into a constant top 25 program and a lot of times top 15 program in the nation, right? And to be producing all season long, in my opinion, be producing a feeling to this fan base that is similar to when OSU football was not good is not acceptable. Look at the stadium. I mean, just look at your background that you've got. Look at that stadium and look at the fan base and look at the excitement that surrounds OSU on a week-in and week-in basis. And the product isn't there. And so, I don't know. I could ramble on all day long about the frustrations and the negative about it, but I mean, that's a very raw feeling. I've got a daughter that sits in those stands as a student at OSU. I've taken my 16-year-old son to, multiple ball games this year. This last weekend against West Virginia was the first time I took my 5-year-old. That was his first experience at Boone Pickens Stadium for a football game. And he ended up, here's what my son got out of the game, my 5-year-old, is that so many people had left that he went and sit with his sister in the student section, and he was collecting the pom-poms that were being handed out because so many people left the stadium. And he was doing that in the second quarter. And it's not what the expectation is. It's not what the fans deserve better. The fans deserve better. And, and I said this on your live broadcast, your live stream the other night of I'm probably one of the last people that need to be sitting four rows from the field. Just seeing what I'm seeing and the interaction.
As a season ticket holder, yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. And it's not in a good place. And don't know what that is. I'm sure we'll find out sometime later, but it's just not a very good experience or feeling right now for OSU football.
I would say this, and kind of just hearing you talk here, a couple of the points that you hit there. I think the number one thing for me that is the most frustrating, maybe infuriating would probably be the better word, and I think Oklahoma State fans still have steam coming out of their ears. This isn't a situation that Coach Gundy can just, mull over with a smart-ass joke or, just move on or whatever. I'm telling you, I'm more pissed right now on Monday morning than I was even on Saturday as far as, hey, this is a lot. This isn't me just being pissed because we lost a game like it's happened 1,000 times at OSU, and I'm disappointed we called the wrong play on 4th and 2 and we couldn't beat OU. Right. This isn't that. This is, like you just very eloquently said, way more far-reaching than that. Yeah. But I think the most infuriating part of the whole thing to me, and the part of it that I think OSU fans want changed the most, is that as a fan, I feel helpless. Mm-hmm. Coach Gundy doesn't listen to us. He doesn't give a rat's ass what we think. He's made that clear on several different occasions, and he doesn't have to because he has a contract that rolls over, so it doesn't matter to him. And then none of his coordinators have to answer any of the questions about it. So to me, it's the helpless feeling that Oklahoma State fans are feeling right now. That's the worst.
No hope. There's in my mind, and again, I don't think I'm very far off from the rest of the fan base. There's no hope that it's going to get any better. I mean, there's no talk about, what we're talking about now is we're not going to listen to the fan base, or what the fan base feels doesn't matter to certain individuals. And that may have not been what he was trying to convey, but that's the way it came across, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, there was a time where a defensive coordinator called us cockroaches, right?
Yeah, right.
And he was gone within weeks, right?
Yeah.
That's the same feeling.
As soon as the season was over, Vance Bedford. Yeah.
Vance Bedford was gone after that, right? That's the same feeling I had then about OSU fans being called cockroaches is the same feeling I have right now about Gundy's approach, Coach Gundy's approach to the fan base. And that I'm not hired to listen to the fan base. You're not. The fan base doesn't have any impact on the football environment or the football program. I mean, every one of the people sitting in that stadium not only bought season tickets but also donated, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so all those perks that you have and all those benefits that you have partially are coming from a huge loyal. I mean, we talk about loyal and true, right? And we're going to sing that we're going to sing it when the band comes on the field before
after we win, not after we lose.
After we win, but you know, when it comes with a little bit of heat, all of a sudden there's no loyalty. Right, because that loyal and true is talking about the alumni, the people that support OSU, the people that are there cheering on the Cowboys, not just the people in the locker room.
I still go to almost every basketball game. It's been ugly, right? That kind of deal. And
so it's very to go back to your point. It's a hopeless feeling that it's not going to get any better because we're going to keep doing what we think. I mean, I'm going to start calling our center sandpaper. Right, because he's got to be raw from as many times we try and run up his butt. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't, and we do nothing different.
No, you tell me how the box is stacked, but then you run it up the middle.
Well, the box is stacked. Yeah. What about before the forward pass was invented? It was stacked then too.
Right. Absolutely.
You don't think that they've stacked the box against Derrick Henry when he was in college, or
Adrian Peterson, or
any great running back, you never had the box stacked. Like that's a new defensive theory that we're going to stack the box against a good running back.
Yeah, that's
horse manure. You know,
I agree.
Anytime that you have a good running back, you're going to have an extra player, half player, whatever terminology any coach wants to use. Right, that there's going to be extra players in the box to stop the run on a good running football team. This is nothing new. But what is new or becoming not new is OSU's inability to do anything about it, right? The inability to make a change, the inability to make a good change, right? And I think, and I've heard people say this, I think that's partially on the running back too. I think that's partially on Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, I've said that a couple times.
He looks like to me he's running not to get hurt.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and his vision's not great. He's not cutting it back. He's not bouncing it, that kind of thing.
And what college football has become is what free agency did to Major League Baseball, right?
But without contracts, it's even worse because there's no contracts.
Right. In that, you know, how many times do you see it that somebody has an incredible year in their year before free agency, and then you never hear of them again?
Yeah, right.
And they talk about how this new contract they got was a bust because they're not producing now. Well, maybe everybody should be a free agent every year, right?
Yeah.
And no long-term deals. And so anyway, there's not a feeling of, you know, I sit there and watched, you know, guys on the sideline that were joking around and having the best time and when they're down 34 to 7 or 31 to 7.
And you're disgusted as a fan and they're not as a player.
Yeah, and fans are hollering and cussing and screaming at coaches. I mean, there was two people that walked down the steps all the way to the wall and was just dog cussing everybody. You know, that's the feeling that people have. That's the frustration that they have. And seeing the interactions on the sideline or the lack of interactions on the sideline, there's a bigger hidden issue than just not being able to run the football.
So here's kind of the enigma to me. You know, last year Oklahoma State was in the Big 12 championship. They rallied and had a great season. 2021, they're a couple of inches away from playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there has been a lot of success in this program 50% of the time in the last 4 years. So it's just polarizing because, I mean, like my brain, I'm sure on this podcast, it seems like I'm inconsistent because I get into a mood where I'm like, Well, damn it, I've enjoyed being in the Big 12 championship game and almost making the playoffs.
Right.
But then I'm disgusted by 2022 and this year.
Right.
So, like, as an OSU fan, it's like bipolar for me, right?
Right. Well, what was the stat I saw this weekend that since the middle of the 2022 season, where OSU's 15-13?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Really?
Did I see that? I thought I saw that. Maybe I'm misspeaking here, but since the middle of the 2022 season, OSU is 15-13, barely above 500. I'd have to go back and research that to see if that's accurate or not. But
it would make sense, though.
And so this isn't. Yeah, and I think that's part of the cardiac cowboy mentality, right? Or the emotion of cardiac cowboy is that on one end, yeah, we were in the Big 12 championship game last year, and this year we're struggling to beat, which South Dakota State's a good football team. Don't get me wrong, right? But if you can't rush against South Dakota State, you're not going to rush against a Division I team, and
you can't tell me that's not scheme if you can't run against South Dakota State.
That's correct. I mean, you ought to be able to, when you're bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic than the person across from you, you ought to be able to line up in the I formation and run for as many yards as you want to.
And deeper.
It's that simple. It's that simple.
I mean, Nebraska won a national championship that built a dynasty on that.
Right. And
you might stop us for 2 or 3 quarters, but in the fourth quarter, you're going to be worn down. And we're going to run all over you, right?
Yeah,
Mike Rozier is going to have 200 yards in the fourth quarter.
And guess what the defense was doing? They were stacking the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
I promise you those 3-4 OSU defenses under Pat Jones were stacking the box.
That's correct. And still getting run over, right?
Yes.
And so is it a scheme issue? Is it a talent issue? Is it a recruiting issue? Is it my give a crap gauge is stuck on 0 issue?
Yes.
I think what we're finding out is, like you're saying right now, it's all of it combined, right? In that we ought to be able to line up. And here's another thing that's amazing to me. Why? And this is football coaches across the board, if you ask me. And I've been guilty of that coaching football, not as a head coach, but what's wrong with getting 3 yards a play?
Yeah, right.
What's wrong with getting 4 yards a play? They talk about the story about Walt Garrison playing for the Dallas Cowboys, right? And they would say, hey, they'd go to him and say, hey, we need 3 yards right here. And he'd go get 3 yards, and second down, say, hey, we need 3 yards right here. And they'd go get 3 yards. I mean, third down, said, hey, we need to get 3 yards right here. And they get in a situation where it's like 4th and 4, and they go to him and say, hey, we need 4 yards right here. And he got 3 yards, right?
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Yeah.
Right. Just keep doing it. And eventually you're going to wear somebody down and you're going to pop one. Right. But our problem is we get hit in the backfield. Right. And then all of a sudden it's throw a jump ball.
Yeah.
Or we get
or a far sideline route from the far hash with a quarterback that doesn't have a strong arm.
Right. And it's nowhere close. Right. Yeah. And then our solution after 2.5 quarters of lack of productivity from the quarterback is throw somebody in that all you've ever done with this kid, talking about Rangel, all you've ever done is throw him into the worst possible imaginable environment every time that he's played.
Absolutely. Kind of like the Alex Cate deal. I mean, he was terrible. Don't get me wrong that day when Whedon came in. But still, if you go back and look at the game plan for what he he was given no shot.
Right.
I'm not defending Alex Cate, don't get me wrong, but he literally was given no shot in that game.
Yeah, and it's almost like you don't have a different game plan for that quarterback. Obviously, the game plan is built around Alex Bowman being the quarterback, right, and built around his skill set. Well, when you bring somebody else in, there ought to be a different game plan that benefits that kid's skill set.
Sure.
But no, first play, let's throw one to the sideline, right?
Yeah.
That's 25 yards downfield.
I mean, that's my biggest one. It's like so the kid's cold. He's probably nervous. He's probably pressing because he's in a terrible situation. Right. You're going to ask him to throw a pass that Tom Brady has a hard time throwing.
Correct.
I mean, it's like, what do we do?
And that's part of that hopelessness feeling.
Yeah.
Is that it doesn't matter who you put at quarterback. It doesn't matter who you put at running back.
We bitched about Spencer Sanders. We bitched about Taylor Cornelius.
The same plays are going to be called.
We bitched about Mason Rudolph because they all made mistakes. They all turned the ball over because, in Mason Rudolph, I think in all 3 of their cases, I think it's kind of like the Brian Dutton effect where he threw the ball down on the flag right. I told that story the other night. And he turned around to the sideline. He went, okay, guys, let's call a real play. Let's go score now. That's an actual real occasion. I said it happened in McAllister. It actually happened a lot, and I can remember it like it was yesterday.
It happened at Tulsa Central.
East Central. Okay, yes.
Central.
Yeah.
It was such a bad play call at that time, according to Brian. I mean, that's not my opinion, but according that he takes the ball and just throws it 40 yards out the back of the end, so it said next.
Let's call a real play. Let's go score, right? Okay, it's like Taylor Cornelius, Spencer Sanders, Mason Rudolph. I think some of these plays in their mind are like, I'm not doing this. I mean, I want to actually have a play that works here, so I'm going to go do this instead, and then it leads to some mistakes, and then everybody's mad. I think there's been a lot of that going on too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it is. So are we to the point now? Just kind of asking you, putting you on the spot because I know that you like being in the spot, right? I mean, because it's one of those deals. You're a very competitive human being. So are we to the point to where if Robbie Rainwater was in charge of things, is Mike Gundy the head coach next year, or are we walking into the office right now? I think what I would probably do is I would walk in and I'd go, Mike, I don't know shit about football. That's why I hired you. That's why you're hired. That's why we gave you the rollover contract, because you were the one that knows what Oklahoma State football needs. All I can tell you is with my limited amount of knowledge, what's going on right now is not working. You make up your mind what it needs to be changed, but Mike, something has to change, and I need you to tell me what that's going to be. I think that would be my message.
That's correct. And it all starts with this. OSU fans, in my opinion, OSU fans really at the end of the day don't mind having a defense that gives up a lot of points. Right. But what they can't stand is not scoring points. Right. And that's what we've, going back to the 80s or whatever, I mean, scoring points, right? Giving up a lot of yards, whether it's bend but don't break, or however you feel about that on the defensive side, or if we're giving up a lot of yardage or even giving up a lot of points, that's all fine and dandy as long as you're scoring points. But when you're not scoring and you're giving up a lot of yardage and a lot of points, something's got to change, you know, and I don't care who it is, but if we're not scoring points, who's responsible for the offense?
Yeah.
Okay.
The head coach and ultimately.
What changes are you going to make? Yeah. If you're giving up a lot of yardage and a lot of points on defense, who's in charge of making the defensive calls, and what are you going to change?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's excuses, and if it's finger pointing, if it's somebody told me to run the 4-2 versus the 3 odd stack, or whatever the case is, or if it's the offense saying, we just don't have, whatever the case is, if it becomes a finger pointing or excuse making, got to go. Right. If you're not going to take ownership of it as the offensive coordinator that has been the offensive coordinator of this team for multiple years now, right, and you don't take ownership of it, then you got to go.
Yeah.
Right? He's got to go, because all that is a loser's limp of not having
I'd agree.
Of not having a direction that you're headed that's going to make us better.
Yeah.
And obviously that isn't the case. I'm not going to dwell on the last game. Let's put it behind us and move forward. Dadgummit, you better start paying attention to what you've done in the past, because you can't get to where you need to go if you don't know the failures of the past.
Absolutely. And history will tell you that. That's kind of like, as a head coach, you turn, it's 4th down and 2, and you get on the headset with your coordinator and you go, hey, what do you got for 4th and 2? And if there is any kind of hesitation, punt. Right? I mean, unless your coach goes, hey, this is what we're running, coach, we got it. Okay? If there's any kind of doubt, hesitation, any of that, you got to punt. And then at the end of the day, you go in there and you go, damn it, we needed to go for that on 4th down and 2. Yeah. How in the hell do we not have a play ready for that situation? Yeah. That's how you handle that, right?
And here's the other thing that, as a former football coach, and I know the theory is, we know more football, we know more scheme than those guys do. And if you walk in a coach's office, they're going to throw you a grease pen until you get on the whiteboard and say, then you draw it up better for us. Okay. Well, pay me $7 million and I will.
Sure.
But for what was it that came out there? The lowest paid staff member or lowest paid coach on the team is making $475,000 a year. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they're not hands off at all. Yeah, right.
And this is what you're producing. I mean, I've seen better offenses in middle school.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's unreal.
More complicated, yeah. Like offenses that adjust better and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like the defense, we're in man coverage, 40 front. There's no disguising of it. It's the same thing. Like Saturday literally was the same thing over and over and over. And when you realize, in the first quarter, you can always tell if your game plan is going to work or not, right? Yeah. That's where you make all your money. And it usually takes you a quarter to actually implement all of the changes that you are. It's not that the coaches didn't know what the adjustments were. It just takes a quarter or so to actually get them implemented and the players to executing them properly. Right. But it's like with OSU's defense right now, it's like, well, by God, this is what we're going to do. And whether it works or not, I don't care. We're going to continue to do this because, by God, this is what I think we need to be doing.
Well, and here's the other thing. If I had the opportunity to talk to anybody, like if the situation you put me in saying, hey, if you were to have this conversation, here's what I would ask.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that justified to me that your scheme doesn't suck?
Yeah.
When you had the football for 17 minutes?
Yeah.
That's all the justification I need is that. Whether I've ever coached football before or not, whether I've ever coached in a state championship.
Now, if you scored 52 points like we did in 2011 in those 17 minutes, right. Okay, fine.
Whether I've sit in that same press box that they've sit in for a state championship game, right?
Yes,
multiple state championship games. Whether I've done that or not is the biggest justification for me that your scheme sucks right now is that you had the ball for 17 minutes and you're not scoring points. It's that simple. I don't need to grease it up for you. I don't need to get on the board and say, here's what you need to be doing, right? What I need you to do is recognize that there's a massive change that needs to be undertaken. Yep. And if you're not willing to do it, then you need to be the change that happens.
Yep, there you go.
It's that simple.
That's a great way to put it.
It's that simple.
You nailed exactly how I'm feeling. I think you just nailed exactly how Oklahoma State fans are feeling.
Whether you're the head coach, because it doesn't matter, Casey, if you're the CEO of a company or the superintendent of a public school or you're the head football coach at OSU, the buck stops with you. All the successes are to your credit, okay? And you're the one that's going to have to answer for all the failures.
Correct.
Everything comes back to you.
Rightfully so.
Everything comes back to you as the head coach, right? And when you have a product that is what it is right now, okay, you either have to be willing to make a change, right?
Willing to hurt some feelings of some adults that are making $1 million a year.
Make a change, or you need to be the change.
Correct.
It's that simple. If you can't go to the defensive coordinator and say, listen, I don't care that you were at a small college 3 years ago. You're in the Big 12 now. Get it fixed and get it fixed right now. Stop something, right? I don't care if you give up 700 yards passing. I want you to give up something. I want you to give up 40 yards rushing. But you can't continue to give up 368 yards rushing and another 300 yards passing.
Yeah, you can't do it. Yeah.
So change something. Okay, whether it's a good change or not, at least make an effort to make it noticeable that you're making a change.
At least show your kids you're trying to figure out something. Go get pinned. Don't get beat 3-2 in a wrestling match. Get pinned trying to beat the guy because that's the only chance you got, right?
That's correct. And if not, and if you're not willing to make that change, and if all you have is excuses, and all you want to have is a loser limp mentality, then you're going to be the change. Yeah, it's that simple. It's the same conversation that the athletic director needs to have with the head coach. It's the same conversation the head coach needs to have with whether it's his offensive coordinator.
And then the coaches need to have the players.
And all of his position coaches, because all of them need to change, right? Mm-hmm. And if they're not willing to make the change, and what's going to be very telling is having a bye week and how they come out and play against, what do they have next? BYU? Provo
on Friday.
Great. Yeah, you put yourself in a great position there. OSU's always played well on Friday. Matter of fact, I think that was the night that Alex State lost to Brandon Whedon too, or Thursday night.
It is.
It was a Friday night or a Thursday night.
We're going really dark there. That's a Friday night.
And here's what: if they come out and play BYU wearing all black, then I'm just turning off the TV because I know what's going to happen. So if they hear nothing, if they absolutely accidentally stumble onto this podcast and they actually listen to it, if they hear nothing else, right, don't wear all black.
Yeah.
You have 0 chance.
Coach, I think you nailed it on the head, man. Very level-headed. Neither one of us are saying, damn it, everybody needs to be fired at this point. What we're trying to be emphatic with, we want you guys to be the coaches, but only if you're willing to show us that you're willing to change, to make the changes that this program deserves, that we deserve as fans, that everybody has worked so hard to get to this point. So,
To me, you know this about me, is there's a big difference between deserved and earned, right?
Yes.
I'm not a deserved guy because deserved is very subjective. What you think somebody deserves may be different than what I think somebody deserves.
It can lead to entitlement, yes.
Just like, there's certain people that have a doctor title in front of their name. Whether I think they deserve it or not is irrelevant. They've earned it.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
They've put in the work. They went and got the degree, whether it's education or medicine or chiropractic, whatever it is. They may not be any good at it, but they've earned that title.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And I think that's the way that I feel about OSU fans. And I think that's where Coach Gundy's comments after the game rubbed me really wrong. I think he's in a very subjective mindset of what he thinks this fan base deserves versus what this fan base has earned over the last several decades. And I can't say it enough in that this fan base has earned the right to see a better product than what is being produced right now. And there needs to be multiple conversations that's happening and saying, boys, we're in a rut and we're at a sticking point right here. And what the next decision we make is going to determine our future at OSU. Right? And either you make a change or you're going to be the change.
Yep. I agree.
And we're going to figure this out together, or we're going to leave together.
Yeah.
And that's the same conversation that needs to happen from the athletic office all the way down to the last person that was hired as a position coach. In that you make a change that's noticeable, not only to me as the head coach, or
to the average fan, casual fan, they need to see it.
That it needs to be noticeable to this fan base. It needs to be noticeable to John Holcomb on the radio. It needs to be noticeable to the people calling the game for ESPN that a noticeable change has happened. And if not, you're going to be the change.
Yep.
Period.
Totally agree, Coach. Totally agree, Coach. Wonderful job. I was so excited to hear your thoughts on this. You did just such a great job, I think, describing how all Oklahoma State fans feel at this moment. These are not very fun podcasts to put together. Trust me on that. We don't like talking like this, but it is what it is. So great job, Coach. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. And can I say one more thing?
Sure, of course.
Those stupid tents on the sideline that everybody uses now.
Yeah.
Drives me insane. I have never seen, and here's a reason why I shouldn't be 4 rows from the field, is I actually got up and stood up against Utah. Hurry up, get to your tent. I mean, I've never seen people that were in such a hurry to get under that tent, or whatever they're calling those things, or whatever excuse that they have for having them. But it's amazing. It's amazing to see people come off a field where the temperature is 195 degrees, which it's 105 on that turf, right? That come off the field and they're not even sweating.
Yeah, right.
They're not even sweating, and they're in such it's a beeline straight to that tent, to that tent. And you got coaches on the sideline with headsets and their mics flipped up. Why do you need a headset if you're not going to have any input?
Right.
The whole game, that mic is pointing. Anyway, those are all the frustrations that people are seeing that are close to the field level.
Yep.
And it's the complaints that people have, and it's the reason why people are saying there is no want to with this team. There's no pride. There's no desire. There's
hunger.
No
hunger, be the way I'd put it.
There's no refuse to lose. Winners aren't winners because they like to win, Casey. Everybody
hate to lose.
They hate to lose.
Yeah,
it's that simple. Winners are winners because they hate to lose. Other people just stumble across winning sometimes.
Right.
Understood. And it's either I win or I don't. It's no big deal. I'm here to have fun or whatever.
Yeah, bullshit on that.
Bull crap.
Yeah.
Okay? Bull crap. People aren't paying $400 a seat when you're playing Utah or Kansas State or West Virginia or whoever else for you to not really care about winning and losing. The scoreboard is on. If you don't care about winning, then go do something where they don't have a scoreboard.
Yeah,
but as long as that scoreboard is on, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. Losers are necessary so that winners can exist.
Yes.
And what side of the ball are you on right now, Mike Gundy? What side of the ball are you on right now? Are you on the winning side because you're causing other people to lose, or are you on the loser side because everybody's beating you? The scoreboard is on, whether it be professionally with your job or on the field against opponents. There's going to be a winner and a loser today. And today you're a loser. Losers are necessary in order for winners to exist. If there's no winner, there's no loser. If there's no loser, there's no winner. And if you don't want to be a part of either that side, then go do something where there's not a scoreboard. It's that simple. And OSU fans have been accustomed now with OSU football, maybe not 3 decades ago, but they've been accustomed now to being on the winning side. And it's very frustrating when you're not on the winning side and you get this sense that nobody really cares, that it's not bothering anybody to lose. It's not bothering the athletes on the sideline when they're jumping around and having a great time after they just came up, limped off the field with a leg injury, and they're down there hopping around and having the best time in the fourth quarter, laughing it up. Nobody looks at that as, oh, it's bothering him to lose. That's my take. I'm ready for OSU football to get back to a point where they hate to lose and it bothers them to lose, because right now it doesn't.